G'day folks, this is a moustache-free Niall McInnes here. I've got the Ed Wall interview and the highlights of it here for your today's post. Ed Wall is a super cool dude. I think he's 27. He's generating a passive income which supports him now through his investments in property and shares. And he's got an amazing mindset on business, life, investing. We go through morning rituals about exercise, taking emotion out of investing, how to be happy, how to be grateful, all sorts of cool stuff. So have a watch. If you want the full interview, head to the link below, which is the YouTube link to my page, and enjoy the video.
Don't just look at the people around you and, take stock tips because someone told you it was a good idea. Understand the things that you're doing, make your own conclusions, and follow your own path. And the only person you need to be live up to is your own expectations, not anybody else. It took me a long time, particularly over the last few years, doing a lot of work on understanding what spirituality is, understanding that whilst ever you're looking for an external source to try and make you feel better or feel good or whatever it is, you're typically always going to have a little bit of a hollow feeling. Use finance as an example, right? So, I love the game. So whether I reach the ultimate outcome or not, whether that be $1 billion or less or whatever it is, right? Like whether I reach that will not determine whether or not I feel happy or good about life. But primarily I'm very principles driven. So I'm very clear on what my values are. I'm very clear on what my principles are. And I make sure that I get up and live every day in accordance to that, which in turn makes me experience a lot of the positive emotions a lot more than the negative ones, which I think is probably the biggest objective that we can have. Highly successful sports people, in their view, are very in touch with who they are, and they're also very in touch with their the fact that they love the game so much that the outcome is just a bonus, right? So, to be in the game is an honour. To whether you win it or not is a different thing. And absolutely play to win and be deliberate and do the things you need to do to try and get there. But don't let it determine whether or not you're happy. I think one thing I've learned from studying people who are people who I kind of am inspired by, for example, your Warren Buffetts and things like that. If I look at those types of people, one of the things they say is that, regardless of how much money you've got, regardless of how much success you have or whatever, like the basic things in life are pretty similar. So, we watch the same TV, we eat similar types of food, we still ultimately can only be in one place at any one time. So you've got to really appreciate those more humble things in life. And I think the rest of it is nice to have and a bonus for sure, but you can't let it determine whether or not you're happy. I think whether someone's got a lot of money or whether someone's got, a nice job title or whether, all of that stuff, like to me, that's stuff.
How would you right now, if you were giving advice to someone, tell them to get around successful people?
In terms of being able to establish your circle of influence, right, which is people who you can learn from, people who have been there and done that. There's a couple of things here. They don't always have to be 10 levels in front of you, right? They might just be someone who's, 10 or 20% further advanced than you. They might have been around a little bit longer than you. They might have been shown a little bit more success than you or had a couple of wins that you are inspired by. I always think to be able to advise someone, you just need to know a little bit more than they do, right? Because that puts you in a position where you can add some value to them. But I think the biggest thing that stops people from surrounding themselves with really positive influence is that people feel like people are not contactable. The awesome thing about today's world is everybody's contactable. Like I said, some of the guys I've met with, and I mentioned, Mike Duff, and I mentioned Matthew Michaelwitz and that kind of thing. You don't meet with these guys because you sit around twiddling your thumbs waiting to find out whether or not they're going to. You meet with them because you put the feelers out, you make contact with them, you compliment them on the work that they've already done that you might have benefited from already. So it's all about you've just got to put yourself out there, right? A lot of these guys want to give back. A lot of these guys are that's where they draw their energy from, is the fact that, they have been there and done this, but they want to help people now who are up and coming to get better and be more successful and all that. Some of the gems that they'll drop you in a 20 or 20 minute or half an hour conversation is worth, 10 years of traditional study, right? So I think, number one, put yourself out there. Number two, if you get value from something, if you read someone's book or you listen to someone's podcast and you enjoy it, let them know. Open up some dialogue with them. Thank the people. The information's out there, right? And then the last thing that I would say is that you don't necessarily have to be best mates with all these people. You can still surround it. What are you doing? All you got to do is look around on trains and any type of public transport and things like that. You look at public places and have a look at what people are looking at on their phones, what they're listening to in their ears, right? Most people aren't necessarily actively looking to better themselves. So if you spend 2 hours playing Angry Birds when you could have spent 2 hours looking at, and you could have spent 2 hours kind of listening to a podcast in a field that you're interested in, regardless of what that might be, everybody, it's out, the information's there, you just got to find. Huge fan of focus, right? As long as it's something you're focusing on, you will start to see the opportunity. You might be in a conversation with someone and they mention somebody's name who it sounds like you would like to meet them, right? Now, if you hadn't been focusing on the fact that you want to build your circle of influence of people, you're not going to notice that opportunity. But when you're thinking about it, you're going to notice it. So, this stuff isn't rocket science, but it's just you've got to want. I have a very clear picture and vision for where I want to go now. Is that written down? Not that particular goal, no. Am I very clear on what I need to do in the next 5 years to get me there? Yes. Now, where is that written down? In my house, I've got a wardrobe with mirrors on the doors. And to be quite honest, typically if I have a good idea in the middle of the night, which is often when they come up, or if I'm a big fan of taking what I know, what I've been able to learn from people and really trying to develop that into a model that makes sense to me. Right? So, I typically what I do is I reach over and grab some lipstick out of my partner's bedside table mat, and I draw it on the mirror. Something somewhere where it's going to remind you every day of why you're getting out of bed. And it doesn't have to be a massive thing. It could just be. It could be. So if you're trying to focus on gratefulness, write it on your mirror where you're going to look every day and go, right, okay, I'm going to be grateful for 10 things. There's nothing wrong with doing something that works for you. And I think that there's so many of us that are prepared to go and take advice from someone and just do it because they said, without actually going, okay, does that work for me? You've got to set your life up and your projects up and all the things that you're focusing on in a way that's going to make a lot of sense. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I know that if I exercise first thing in the morning, I'm going to have an awesome day.
Perfect.
So that's what I do. I'll make sure I'm every single morning. I'm either at the gym or I'm out doing hill sprints, or I'm going for a jog, or I'm doing something active to get myself out there before I do anything else. That's before breakfast, before anything. I always follow that up by eating something healthy and fresh first thing in the morning. That would be probably the extent to a morning ritual, but I do that without fail.
If you had to define it down to one thing that you see you do differently to say people who haven't quite made it yet, what is that one thing that you feel that you do differently that you can attribute your success to?
Clarity. There's so many people. You all you've got to do is go and find the first 10 people you can see, right, and ask them what they want from their life, where they're going, why they're doing what they're doing. It's not very often that you get a very clear answer on what somebody actually. What you need to do is you need to understand at least what the bigger picture goal is for you, right? Now that you might not know exactly what that looks like from a tangible point of view, but what type of person do you want to be in the future? That's highly important. Like what type of person do you want to be? So more than what do you want to have, who do you want to be? That's the question that you really want to ask. You can change everything, right? You're fully responsible for everything that you do. So if you don't like your job, if you don't like your business, if you don't like where you live, if you don't like the relationship you're in, if you don't like your financial situation, you can change everything in a heartbeat, right? So I think people overestimate the worst case scenario. Know what you want, get clear on that, and start to work towards it, and be prepared to have a long-term view, right? So there'll be some immediate things that you can do, but you're not going to get good at everything overnight. So you do little things right for a long period of time, you will be successful. And the same thing comes with anything in your life. If you want to be good at something, be prepared to give it the time that it deserves.
I'd like to hear what you do to take emotion out of your decisions, whether it be investing, business, life, or what do you do?
Great question. I could talk about this for a week. It's really simple. Don't let emotion play a part. If it's an investment, it's an investment. The numbers need to do the talking. So understand the numbers and the metrics that you need. get those numbers and metrics, and it either works or it doesn't. It's black and white. There's actually no grey area involved. How can you make an investment in something where you mitigate your risk as much as you can so that you're less likely to lose money before you even think about how much money you're going to make? I saw an awesome podcast again from Buffett the other day who said you need to be able to answer the question why, right? So if you're investing in something, ask yourself why, right? So if you can say, I'm investing in this company or I'm investing in this property because blah, blah, blah. If you can't answer that, you probably haven't done your due diligence, right?